so I could go get dressed, for Vietnam. And so I went to college for music. I played the clarinet, in high school, so it was first chair. Hey, I ought to be good, right? But I got to college, and after the first semester, I discovered I didn't have something called talent, which apparently you need in music, for some reason. So I ended up switching my major to philosophy. Had no idea what philosophy was, but it had lots of free electives. So I figured, I'll take, the free electives, find out what I like, and then switch again. I ended up liking philosophy so much I never switched. That was it for me. It's one of the first lectures I remember was Mr. Williams, an intro to philosophy, looking at us and saying, if God is all powerful, can he create a rock that's too heavy for him to lift? And I had never heard that question before. I don't know if you've heard that question before. But of course, being a good Roman Catholic, I thought, well, of course, God is all powerful. He can do anything, including make a rock that's too heavy for him to lift. And I could feel my head split. And I just had to figure out an answer to that question. It was like,
Still looking?
Oh, no, after about 8 years, I figured that whole thing out.
Oh,
So,
8 years.
When I say that, people say, oh, well, so what's the answer? And no, it takes 8 years.
Mm-hmm. You go find it.
You have to develop the vocabulary, etc., in order to make sense out of that very, very interesting question. Can God be restricted to logic, or anything? All sorts of interesting questions. We still have about 8 minutes yet. So. This is a full class, by the way. 35. I doubt if we'll ever see all 35 people come at once. I'm still leery of catching any of those diseases that are out there. COVID, RSV. I've gotten all the vaccinations I'm allowed to have, I think. Being in the Army, I wasn't afraid of getting vaccinations because they gave us sometimes 2 at once. One of each. Then go do push-ups. I don't know if any of you have been in the Army. By the way, the reason I ended up in the Army was because Vietnam was over. And having graduated with a philosophy degree, two degrees actually, you're like, okay, now what can you do with that? You've heard the joke, the guy that gets the business degree, his question is, how much does that cost? An engineer, how does that work? Or, how can you make that? Some of the other ones. But a philosophy degree or an arts degree, the main question you have is, would you like fries with that? That's a joke. Fries, they come with hamburgers sometimes. There's restaurant chains like McDonald's and Burger King, Wendy's, Carl Jr., probably a whole bunch of other ones down in the lower 48. We used to have one out in Anchorage that was supposed to make the best hamburgers and fries and milkshakes, and they're closed because the owner retired. But he really liked that one, so that was good. By the way, that's not really true. Everyone now argues that the arts degrees are great for all kinds of things. 'Cause basically, they teach you how to think. And it's odd, but there are companies that really want people that know how to think. It's maybe rare, but they have them out there. But so, I ended up joining the Army. After, I almost went to seminary, but it sounded like we would end up being impoverished the rest of our life. And I wanted to make a lot of money instead. So I joined the Army, which might not sound like a way to do that, but I joined as a linguist. And so they paid us bonuses. So they paid me for Russian, French, and German, which is cool. I'm still getting all that money because, of course, I'm retired now, and so I've been retired since '94. And I started teaching here in '95. So this is my 30th year teaching.
Congrats. That's great.
It is. And my wife is still my wife. 52 years. Same jokes. And she still laughs at them. I think she is mentally ill. However, that's cool. And 4 kids. All of whom are older than you guys, I think. Maybe not. How kids grow. Oh. So I've got one son who's an engineer and an artist. He has 3 degrees. Is that good? I guess. It's a whole nother degree more than me. That's pretty cool. And the year he graduated from UAA and walked across the stage with a civil engineering degree, that week he was hired making more money than I've ever made here in town, so if you want to make lots of money, I think engineering is one way to do it. They call those STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We've been trying to add STEAM so that you get science, art. No, T comes in. Technology, art. Now I've got lost. I forget what the rest of them were. Oh well. So, anybody know what philosophy is? I think 5 of you have emailed me so far and said hello. And a couple of those that emailed me said that they've already dabbled in philosophy for a little bit. So that's pretty cool. Dabbled? That's like, I don't know. What's dabbling? I'm very confused by language because, of course, if you study Russian, German, French, and then the Army made you learn like 16 altogether in Europe so that you were familiar with anything you heard. I spent a lot of time under headsets, right? You can imagine. Berlin was my first duty tour. That was back when the wall was still there, of course. In fact, I could show you the picture of where I worked. That's one picture of it, anyway. By the way, what does that look like? Don't say that out loud. I think that was built while Kennedy was president. Jack Kennedy, not. I worked in the second floor of the blue building. So, for 3 years. My oldest daughter was born in Berlin, so. She has 2 degrees, philosophy and psychology. So that's pretty cool. My youngest daughter has 1 degree, but is this close to getting her master's, if that makes sense.
What did you study?
Psychology, although I'm not sure exactly what kind. There's a whole bunch of those now. So, but she already has been a full employee of South, they call it. So, in fact, I think they're helping pay for her degree. So that's fun. And my 4th child is a dismal failure, which, 1 out of 4, that's not too bad. We think he's in Tacoma, working as a fireman. Not that that's a failure, but he's not a full-fledged, well, if you knew him, you would realize he'll be a failure at everything he tries, because we adopted him, and he had fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which means that none of his circuits work properly. So I had fun with that kind of thing too. However, let me get this pornographic image off of the screen. Okay, so let me officially start by welcoming you all to philosophy, which actually, philia, is a Greek word that means love in one translation. Are you familiar with C.S. Lewis? Couple folks. C.S. Lewis, one of the books he wrote is The Four Loves, and there's philia, agape, storge, and eros. And eros is the one everyone I think is most familiar with because that's the sexual love. Although, if you read C.S. Lewis, he explains that certain kinds of erotic attraction is actually a fetish and not actually love. So he means a very specific thing by eros, where you're actually in love with the person, as the person, and not the things you could do with the person, especially, right? But philia means, in a sense, brotherly love, in the sense like Philadelphia. For example, that Philadelphia means the city of brotherly love, supposedly. You'd be surprised, though, if you ever lived in Philadelphia, which is where I grew up. I could still talk like a from there. But in any case, but agape is God's love for us, for C.S. Lewis. And storge is your love for your pets, your comfortable slippers, your children. That's actually funny if you look at. That's, by the way, the one thing that C.S. Lewis recorded that's still available, as far as I know, on the internet. You could just search for The Four Loves, and you could just listen to that. He read it over the radio in England at the time. But philia basically is love in the sense that several people who are friends love the same things. Right? So you've got friends that like chess, you play chess. You like chess. You like art. Wagner. You go and listen to Wagner operas. That doesn't necessarily make you fascist. you know, but that's okay. You can love Wagner. Although the friends of mine that have gone to Wagner festivals came back and said, they're all fascists. Oh well, yeah. Hitler's favorite music was Wagner's. But so philia means love in the sense of you love, you have a common interest, right? And then